Okay, so today I have a very simple plan. I have 1, 2, 3 and 4 boxes under the bed that are stuffed very unneatly with fabric. So the plan is to pull out all 4, empty them, and rather more neatly put them back in. I also have 2 boxes on our definitely not calyx, our pretend calyx, that's filled with scraps that I may or may not get to. Here are my 4 boxes pulled out, just so you've got a better idea of what I'm trying to work with. I'm going to be referencing the KonMari method, but not actively using it, and the reason for that is last year we moved from the UK to Germany, so I had to very intensively go through my fabric, which is why I've got so little in the first place. But what I am hoping that I can do is at least get rid of one of these boxes. I'm looking at this one, which is, shall we say, half empty. But anyway, yes, I will be referencing it because, well, quite frankly, because my wife has already done the rest of the house that way. The reason I'm not looking at my scraps as much, or won't be looking at them so much, is because they're actually already done by colour. So you see this is a blue bag, that's got blue scraps in. Underneath I've got a white bag and a green bag. I could pull it out properly so you can see. Underneath I've got a white bag and a green bag, which has got white and green in respectively. And same for the top one. So we have a lovely pile of fabric, as per the KonMari method. It's honestly not too bad. I feel like that could be worse. It's going to be interesting to go through though. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to organise this. I know that the majority of mine is cotton, because that's just what I like to work with, cotton, linen, wool. But we combined both mine and my wife's stuff, so I can see there that there's some lining fabric sitting out on the top. So it's going to be an interesting combination, let's put it that way. So I haven't decided if I'm going to go by colour like my scraps are, or by material. I know there's lots of scraps to pull out as well, but we'll see. I think I'm just going to split it all up first, get it folded neatly, and then decide on how to put it back into the boxes. Okay, so that sort of stuff sorted out. I've kind of done it by material, except for that one big pile of like vaguely neutral at the back. I also forgot how the majority of my wife's stuff is scrap, or not the majority of it, but a fair chunk of it is scraps. So that's another pile to go through once I've sorted out all of this stuff. I still haven't really decided how I'm going to rebox it. I think what I'm going to do is start with all the patterned fabrics, because they're obvious, and then kind of go from there. What I really want to do is put them on a nice roll, but sadly I don't actually have a sewing room, so these boxes are all I have to store them in. It will be a bit higgledy-piggledy until we move for the next time, I'm afraid. But yeah, sort of progress, maybe, something, we'll see. I have gone with is roughly the KonMari folding method. I've got these two at the front, which are still stapled from when I brought them. Those are just folded. Everything's roughly folded in thirds, except for obviously they're not all exactly the same size, so it's very rough. I've also been using leftover note cards, and I know I've been, before anyone says, yes, I've been safety pinning them in. I've been safety pinning them into the edge, if I can pull one out from the edge. Into the edge, so it's not actually going to affect the fabric where I'm going to be using it, but I have them lying around. I've got plenty of safety pins lying around. I'm a cosplayer or costumer, whichever you want to call me. I'm going to use them, especially since this isn't a permanent method. This is only going to be for a couple of years, year and a half, until we move again, when hopefully we will have enough room that I can have a sewing room, and then I'm going to be keeping everything nice and neatly on a shelf somewhere, preferably in bolts, but that's for the future. Anyway, so that's all of my patterned fabrics done. I'm a bit of a quandary as to which is going to go next. I think what I might actually do is start with all my natural fabrics, which is the massive pile, or the next biggest pile. Yeah, next biggest pile. It's not really, there's just some really chunky fabrics in there. But I'm going to do those in a new box, and then see where that leaves me. I might actually start on the biggest box, and then I can try and get some of the other natural stuff in there. I think that is going to be the plan. Because if I can get all the natural stuff in the big box, then hopefully I can get the rest of the lining in here, and then we might be getting somewhere. We shall see. I realised I failed to actually show you what was on the cards that I've been writing. So here is an example, and that's for this gold piece of fabric that I've just pulled out. And all I'm doing is measuring how much I've got. And then the reason it's got a note saying not square is because my wife has already been at this, and it doesn't have a square edge. It's just to let me know that it's not exact measurements, just so I can have a quick glance through it and go, okay, yes, I've got enough of that fabric, I don't need to go to the shops, or no, I need to go to the shops to get more of that based off what I'm pulling out of the box, which honestly is the main goal of this. I'm taking a moment to say, this is fake pleather. I am not going to safety pin this. Like, fake pleather. This is pleather. Fake leather. I'm not going to be safety pinning this, because that will leave a permanent hole. Instead, paperclip. I realise I could be using paper clips on everything, but I have more safety pins than paper clips. So... as you can see, some progress has been made. I have 2 boxes that are nice and neatly packed, all labelled. The one on the left is costume fabric, so it's cottons and wools and linens and all the stuff that I would use to make full costumes, plus a bit of fake fur and pleather at the end. And then the one on the right has got pattern fabrics and then lining fabrics. So that's all the big pieces of fabric. The pile behind is not quite cabbage, not quite a full piece that I'm putting to one side to go into a mock-ups pile. And then there's a bag in there which is full of lace that needs to be dealt with. And then I've also still got a box of scraps, which I do now have permission to go through at least. So that's probably the next job once I've got these out of the way. But we're getting somewhere. I went to put the 2 boxes away and I found another box hidden behind. Well, on the plus side, I can definitely get rid of 1 box now, but just to show you what I'm now working with on top of what I've already done. I should have guessed, really. I knew there was some stuff missing. I'm very good at this. So we have attempt number 2. Now got one of the same box and 2 that are smaller than the big box that was there. I've now got 1 box of patterns and silks linings, 1 of wool and linen, and fake fur and pleather, and the one on the end has got plain cottons. By cottons I mean they're normally drills, but you know. So, success. I'm now back to where I was. I now have that pile to be getting on with. Let's see how this goes. Attempt 2. It's actually rather more than a day later, I'm afraid. That was a bit of a break, but we're back in business. So all of the big pieces have been sorted out, and we've just got the scraps to go, which is this box here. I'm going to have to sort them and then put anything that I would normally throw away aside, because these are my partner's scraps, so technically they're not mine. But the way that I work with scraps is anything that's too small to fit in an embroidery hoop, I get rid of, because that's too small to work with and that's too small to do embroidery with, so there's no point keeping that. So I better get started. So now I'm just down to this pile, which is a mixture of scraps that are big enough to do embroidery on and scraps that are big enough to do mock-ups. So I think what I'm going to do is sort that into colour, see how much space it takes up, and then think about combining it with my stuff. Colour and size, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it. It's going to be a bit of a faff. I'll probably end up getting rid of a bit more as well, because that's always what happens when I go through things a second time. But we're getting somewhere. It's less than it was. So that's progress. That's everything folded into colours. I brought down all of the ones from the shelf that I said I may or may not do. Looking at this, I think what I'm going to do is actually put them into there. That big bag is fabric that hopefully we'll be getting rid of. Everything should be able to be combined and fit in the 2 under the bed boxes, and then we're getting somewhere, by which I mean we're done. So, after like a week, this project might almost be finished. change of plan. They fit in the not Kallax boxes quite nicely. I did pull out a couple of pieces that are going to go in the other boxes, but it looks like we're down the big box. And finished. I've gone from 5 very messy under the bed boxes to 4 very nicely folded under the bed boxes, or 3 nicely folded and 1 that's got bags of stuffing and lace in, and 2 boxes that did have scraps in, still have scraps in, but they're a little bit neater than they were before. I would call that a win. We've got a box on the end with a bag full of scraps and 3 items that could be going to charity, depending on life. On every box I've labelled it with masking tape, and that's because I know we're going to move at some point and these boxes will probably be repurposed. But masking tape I can pull off without leaving a mark, and I put that on both ends just so I can be lazy and don't have to pay attention to which way round I'm putting them back in. The scraps are still organised by colour. The first one in the orange bag is golden brown, the second one is white, the third one is blacks and greys. Obviously I didn't have a black bag, so they're both in white bags. And then we've got reds and purples and pinks, and blues and greens in the respective bags, except for obviously the red ones in the orange bag. All in all, I would call that a success. And now I'm finished. Only took like a week, but it's done. That's the main thing, right? It's done. And look at how good it looks. Yeah. Very happy. So here's everything sped up into a little conclusion for you all. It's not a replacement for a dedicated sewing space, but at least everything is findable now. Let me know in the comments down below how you keep yourselves organised, especially if you don't have a dedicated sewing space yourself. I also have to say a great big thank you to everyone who subscribed in the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it, thank you. There's more Aziraphale and other sewing stuff coming up, and some Secret Santa stuff to come at the end of December, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please think about it for that. And if you enjoyed this, please consider giving me a thumbs up. And I'll speak to you all again in 2 weeks.